Hey, Neil McDonnell here with another Neil Raw video. These videos are designed to give you a kind of a little over-the-shoulder look at how I do what I do and how my team does what they do when we do research into one of our customers, trying to help them find some information out. So today's video is about trying to find people to talk to, the right contract vehicles to go after for what you're selling. And in this case, I'm helping I'm helping a potential customer. So I want to show them some of the stuff that we can do for them, or point them in the right direction. If they don't go with this, at least they get some good information. So we're trying to find out what are some of the best contract vehicles or the currently used contract vehicles for telecom services, telecommunication, and then also in those contract vehicles, who's already got them. For this particular customer, they're probably not going to be able to prime contract for a little while. In fact, I would encourage them not to prime contract for at least 12 to 24 months, because they're cutting their teeth in federal government now. They're doing tens of millions in commercial services, but they're not in the federal sector really at all. And so you want to get subcontracting experience. And then also telecommunication tends to be already awarded out in 5 or 10-year contracts. So they can get in, do subcontracting work, figure out which agencies they want to specialize on, figure out which contract vehicles they want to compete on when they start coming out. So this activity today is to identify which contractors already have that, have been awarded those contract vehicles. And then if I can do it even more, where can we find the name and phone number and email of the people who are in charge of those contract vehicles for each one of those vendors? So you'll see in this scenario, I did a little bit of prep work just so I'm not having you watch me do too much Google research. But this is something I want you to understand, is that these are raw videos. So I'm showing you me bouncing around. That's totally normal for an expert. An expert knows where we're going and that we'll get there, and that sometimes we take different paths. I describe it, especially in today's video, I describe it as a maze. I know I'm starting here at the entry to the maze and I need to go to the exit of the maze, but I'll bounce all around and I'll go down a path, hit a wall, and you just have the courage to come back and to a known good point and then continue down the maze, and you're just working your way through the maze. You don't ever walk up to a maze, a new maze, and go, oh, I know exactly the path to get to. No, you know that you're going to get through the maze, and you just got to do the work to get through the maze. And so these videos are designed to kind of help you go follow me along that maze. But I did want to do a little bit of research, so I knock out some of the, let's just say, annoying paths that go down to a wall. Anyway, so I've got a good start to it. Let me share my screen really quick with you. And again, these are Neil Raw videos, so I'm not trying to do anything hugely formal. I did take the time today to just put together a scenario. I think I already described it. It's a new customer. Their core competency is telecommunication. We're trying to identify contract vehicles that are used to procure telecommunication services. Now, at the moment, I'm not trying to identify all of them. I'm just trying to identify some key ones that I can use as an example to show the process. And then, like I mentioned, I want to identify the prime contractors on those contract vehicles. You'll see that when I go down that path, there'll be some large primes and smalls. I might talk a little bit about the smalls, but because this customer is already doing tens of millions in revenue on the commercial side, I don't need to direct them to smalls as much. I can direct them to a large, and the large will be really open to the conversation because this company is an expert at telecommunication. They're just not in the federal side. Okay, and then the process I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to do a lot in here, but I did want you to just see that the first thing I always do is kind of look at best-in-class contract vehicles. Best-in-class contract vehicles are, what the government's describing as contract vehicles are so good that anybody in the whole government could use them. That's basically what it means. It's, they're just being run really, really smooth. So we'll look at that. We'll look at my video training. I put out a training. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on my LinkedIn site. You can find it on our website, govconchamber.org. But anyways, in the video training, one of the first places I go is look in there and see what contract vehicles I laid out. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but there's 41 in general. So I want to see if there's any telecom ones. One thing I do want to mention to you is anytime you hear about category management, best-in-class contract vehicles, et cetera, ignore the policy debate, the bureaucracy debate, the political debate. Ignore the debate. It doesn't matter to the 99.9999% of us out there. There's rules on how you play in the federal government. There's contract vehicles. There's ways that the government buys. You're not going to change that in any kind of fast way. And for those of us who are actually concerned about sales and increasing our revenue, then we just need to figure out what are the rules and go win by playing those rules. I'm not here to sit there and complain about the rules. And so that's why I say ignore the debate. So the best in class vehicles, the last bullet you see there with GSA, I'm going to go look just to make sure I didn't miss anything there. And I'll show you a couple of ways I look in there. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but it's handy to go in and see what GSA's, what information they share and how you can use it as a way to navigate towards the information you're looking for. And then there's this really fancy tool out there called Google. So I'll go into Google. I'll show you what I do to use Google to my advantage. I mean, it's such a powerful tool. There is no more powerful tool than Google in any kind of research you want to do. And so that's always my first spot after any known spots like the best in class. Okay, so let me switch over to current website I got open. No, I was saying I'm going to best in class. So here is a video. Let me just come up here. I did this video and I'll share it. It's best in class contract vehicles. I did it in March, and you'll see in a minute, it's still very relevant. Needs to be updated. I'll update it for 2020, and actually probably do interviews now with the category management leaders. But in here, I laid out if you don't know about category management, I'll tell you at a high level, what the government's trying to do is make it easy for them to procure goods and services. Totally makes sense, right? And so they created these gray boxes, which are the 10 common goods, the most common things everybody in every agency buys. And then down below, it says defense centric. Those blue boxes, the ones on the bottom half of the screen, those are the categories that are specific to the Department of Defense. Generally, most people don't need to pay attention to the bottom. You know, you're in kind of a unique space if you're down below, or you're in a larger business. Most of us small businesses come in the grays at that common good category. So anyways, we've got them laid out. These are laid out 2019, the way that GSA and the government defines it. So then best in class, what I did is I took those categories, and here, and I'm not going to make you see the traveling part, I'll just pull it up. But here what I did is laid out the best in class contract vehicles. And at the time there were 41 of them. The best in class contract vehicles for all the services. And you see over on the right-hand side, for my customer, and I'm sorry, let me back up one screen. For my customer, over here on the left-hand side, you see it says IT. They're a telecom focused company, or my soon-to-be customer, right? But they're a telecom focused company. And so that's the only category I care about. A lot of other companies, their services, like let's say business process improvement, that might go across a couple of these categories. But category management, telecommunication fits solidly in IT. So when I go to the next page, what I'm really looking for is these contract vehicles that are on IT. These aren't all of the contract vehicles by any means. There's over 100,000 contract vehicles. These are the best in class ones. And so I'm just looking in to see, are any of them popping to me that I'm like, oh, let me go take a look at them. So I'll give you an example. Army Chess, you'll see me go in there in a minute. This ADMC2 is the best in class contract vehicle out of Army Chess, but Chess has lots of contract vehicles. And so this is just one of them, and it's not Telecom. You'll see the one that's coming out of Chess that I like at the moment is ITS something 3. And we'll look at that in a minute. The rest of these, like enterprise infrastructure, services, and networks, those are expiring. So networks, I think, basically expired or stopped being able to do new procurement in 2019. It stretches into 2020. It's got a couple more years of like legacy stuff, but basically that's an old contract. And so, you want to find out what's the next one. These contracts are used by many people throughout the government compared to when I show you the one for Army Chess, that's the one that's being used for Army in particular. So we'll go into that. And here's something else I want to make sure you understand, right? I'm not a subject matter expert on telecom, which is ironic since that was where I spent a big part of my career. So I did telecom, ran fiber everywhere around the country, but that's not my expertise now. It certainly hasn't been for the last 10 years. The last 10 years I've been a business owner and sales and all that kind of stuff. I can talk about telecom. I know telecom, but that's not my expertise, and I'm not trying to be an expert. So what I'm trying to do with you here in these videos is show you how do I dig in, and you'll see me do searches as basic as, what are the telecom contract vehicles used by the government? Simple statements. And that's what I want you to do when you're doing your own research, whether it's construction or road paving or financial support. Use just plain terms when you're searching for it especially in Google, because that'll lead you to the government sites. That'll lead you to the news sites that that'll write, have articles that you can then use as references to other information. Okay, so here I'm just looking, I'm seeing these ones, and I'm just reminding myself on this. You can go farther down. By the way, let me just click this one. This is the one I was talking about. Oops. This is how contract vehicles are, if you haven't paid attention to this or seen this before. But tier 3 are the best in class. And not all GWACs are best in class, but anyways, that doesn't even matter. GWAC just means government-wide. It means they can be used government-wide. But you can see this pattern, right? There's tier 2 or multi-agency, meaning you could use it at HHS and Army or something. Single agency is where you can only use it within HHS, and unmanaged is just there's no real structure on it. It's just more specific need contracts or contract vehicles. This is my term, Wild Wild West, but this one here, spend under management, that's inside the black circle there. So all the blue and green circles, that's what the government's trying to do, is they're trying to get better at how they spend money. Just a quick sidebar, this is very important for the government to do. I've experienced this over the last 20 years, but certainly in the last 10 years, where the government will pay us one amount here and another amount here, and they're not coordinating with each other, they're not sharing. And so what the federal government as an entity or entirety is trying to do is to figure out, how do we stop wasting money? That's a good thing, for us taxpayers. I don't want them to reduce the amount of money they spend, but I certainly want them to reduce the amount of money they waste, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's come down. This doesn't matter to you at the moment. I'm not trying to go through this part. So here I laid out, and I'm going to, mostly I'm using this for myself, but here I laid out all the contract vehicles. And basically what I did is each one of them, I just put in the year that expires and then the second one. So this one expires in 2020, but it's got a 5-year extension. So NITAC, CIOSCS, and I think there's another one below this. They go all the way to 2025. The reason this is helpful, though, for you, if you look at this in the future, you definitely want to go find my video on category management, contract vehicles, et cetera. But when you look at this, it tells you how many contractors are in here. So it's got a good pool if you were trying to get into the NITAC. And then who's in charge of this contract vehicle from the government side. Here, if you click on this link down below, or you highlight it and go to it, in there you'll be able to research it, and you'll see in a minute how I did exactly that. And it leads you to finding the information out about who the contract holders are. This video, from my perspective, or this exercise in this video from my perspective, is about finding the contract holders I want to talk to, and then finding people's names and numbers that I can reach out so I can start doing my sales. Sales is a big part of it is picking up the phone, but you can't pick up the phone if you don't have names and numbers. So, okay, so let me come down here to this next one. Here I'm just describing, hold on. It's funny. I think this slide actually got mixed up, but anyway, so here's their information technology ones. I'm looking at that. And then I'm going to escape out of this because I know what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to come here to this one. Here's a chess contract. So I was able to find the link that I wanted. And you can see down below, I have 2 links. One is GSA, because this hallways is a lot of, inside of GSA, they have a lot of information about this contract vehicle. And then Army also has, I think it's PEOEIS is the ones who own all these contracts or manage all these contract vehicles. They have a ton of information. You'll see that in a minute when I go to the site. Okay, so that's all I want there for the moment. Let me close this guy and bring you here. So, I did my basic research here, just starting and then bouncing around. I'm like, okay, nothing's really changed. The reason I, started here though, is I wanted to see if best in contract vehicles have changed a lot in the last 12 months, and they really have not since I did that video, so we're good. There's a couple that are off. But one thing I did notice that I liked is this first link is an ad, so let's get rid of that. So then, if you look here, my video is the 4th one on the first page, and it's above the White House. It's between GSA and the White House on contract vehicles. So we're putting out some good information that's valuable to people out there. So I'm glad to see it's being surfaced up there. And my point is you can find it just by typing best in class contract vehicles, and you'll find it on our website. We put a ton of content out there. I like to put stuff out there for free, like this video. If you can't afford to work with me, well, at least I can do is record what I'm doing when I'm doing it, and you can see it. Sometimes we put formal courses out there so it's nice and pretty and organized. Other times it's like this where it's raw, but it's always helpful and it'll help you move forward. So let me go ahead and get rid of that guy. So here is, this is just where I wanted to come in. So you see that it was last updated, last updated up here in the top right. Come on. Okay. You can see it was last updated there. I'm not going to let you see a lot of this stuff, but you see the reason I went in here is this is the current best in class contract vehicles by the categories. And so I come down here and I'm looking, and this is something I want you to see, right? Let me move this up a little bit. The IT category, these 3, 6 through 9, those aren't like IT 70 or something. These are for workstations. So sometimes it's only a best in class for a certain category of a purchase. And you can see that explained down below. This video is not about best in class in particular, but you can learn a lot by going to GSA, into their acquisition gateway. If you're in sales in federal government, especially for a small business, take the time to just become an expert at some of this stuff that's out there. You don't need to go down a rabbit hole, but understanding the basics of GSA, for example, that they're your friend and they provide a lot of information that'd be good for you. So here, now I come in, number 10, I see it's got the wireless on there, and then the Satcom stuff I don't really care about, and then it lists the others. All of these I have listed on my own, so I'm done with this. I don't care about it. You can go in and learn a lot more about this as you go farther in if you want. And I think I have a couple of them open up future tabs, and you'll see that in a second when I go there. All right, so so the other thing I did is telecom, and here's a little tip I do. I mean, it's part of the secret sauce, but I want to just start teaching people how I do it and what makes me so great at what I do. It's because I know how to use Google, for example, a little bit more than the average person. So one example down here, you see where it says past year. All you do is click on tools, and it gives you those little filters. And now I can say past year. That's a standard thing I do, is I just say, show me the past year, because I don't need to see forever. The other thing is telecom is my keyword that I'm searching, but then I can put in things like site, hhs.gov, or I could have said, here I could have said .mil, and I'm only seeing information. You see the URLs. I'm only seeing information from the .mil sites, so it drives me straight to where I want to go quickly, and I ignore a lot of stuff. .gov is hard because a lot of times you get local and state government, which means you have to filter through things. When you do .mil, you're generally jumping right to all federal, unless National Guard type people slide in. Okay, so my point though is I jumped in here and I found all sorts of good stuff, which just opened up these other tabs. So let's go into it. I'm going to come back to CHESS, the ITES-3S, so ITES 3S, or however you say that, right? I'm going to come back to that because that's one I really want to explore. But I wanted to show you the GSA. Remember, I was talking about you go into GSA, you can see a lot of stuff. So on GSA, if you clicked on networks, for example, you would see that this thing is dying, right? It's set to expire on about 2020. It talks about it can go to 2023, but the reality is right here, it's saying you should focus on making awards by the end of 2019, FY 2019. So what they're saying is for special reasons, they're letting it slide, but basically it's dead. So when you look at network solutions, or you're looking at any of these contract vehicles out there, this one would have been a great one for the last 10 years. It's been, a telecom, the main telecom contract vehicle, but connections too. This one here, and there's a lot of information on here, and you can go in when you're doing your own research, but this one here shows that it's going to the end of 2021. Let me pause for a second on that. As it relates to my potential customers in telecommunication, I want to talk to them about why would they get in here. Well, it's important to get in here because anybody who's on this contract vehicle and doing any kind of business, they might be wanting to go after whatever the recompete is. And I haven't done the research yet to find out what the recompete is for Connection 2, but guaranteed it's started already. They're saying this period of performance goes to January 21. That does not leave a lot of time to create a $5 billion contract, right? So it's started already. They can go into whatever tool they go into and find out, what the next one is. That's not my job at the moment or in this video, but there is a reason to go after this, is because you can find potential teaming partners and begin to line up what your 2021 footprint will look like. In a second, you'll see me go after some other stuff in a different way. Coming down, so here they're just talking about ordering, which is all fun. A lot of this stuff is for government. Sometimes you see stuff for industry, but this particular page was built for federal agencies, I think. It doesn't matter. It's really handy for us. So let me keep coming down. And so here it talks about industry partners. You can learn more about our industry partners and their connection to industry partners. When you click on it, there again, GSA is talking to the federal government, but I can learn a ton out of this. I can see that there was 19 companies that won this. Whoa, that's a bad site. I mean, I don't mean to knock the site, but all I wanted to do is in this part. Anyway, so there's 19 partners. You can see them here, and 9 are small businesses. Instantly in my head, I'm like, well, there's 10 that are largest that might use me as a teaming partner from a small standpoint. And there are 9 of these companies that maybe I could team up with and we could prime next time. So I want to talk to all 19 of these, or at least look into them and see who's out there. So right here, market research. Here's the industry partner contacts and details. And I haven't done any of this research yet, right? But let me scroll back in. Hold on one second. I zoomed too much. So down below, you can see all the people who won this contract. And this is good for me because I can begin to match it up to other contracts. But I'm also going to show you, like, here's AT&T, right? And that's their page for the networks. And I'm going to go to that in a minute. But you see AT&T's on this one as well. They're telecommunication, obviously. So I want to look at the main telecom firms and go see what federal contracts they have. And we'll go look at that in a minute. But here, I could click on each one of these, but I'm hoping this thing is like some sort of spreadsheet or something. I couldn't ask for anything better. Right here is AT&T and the main point of contact, program manager. It's exactly who I want to talk to. Free piece of advice on sales. Never email these people first, right? Don't spam these people. You're trying to get millions of dollars out of these people from business-wise. Take the time to actually reach out, develop the relationship, you know? And I don't mean spend a ton of extra bad time. Just take the time to call them first, have a plan before you call them, know what you want to talk about. And then if you get their voicemail, leave a voicemail and then follow up with email. So that's how I recommend you use that information. But for my customer, they can take this information, create a checklist, call. And this is only 21 companies, right? They can call them all in one day. The potential upside on a $5 billion contract is pretty large if you can get in the door. So taking the time, building those relationships. So just looking at this, okay, here's one of them. This person here, I'm assuming, is trying to, you know, put in something that is, I don't like it because it's not a person. Right here, Byron Johns has his personal email, business email, right? So does Chris up here, but this person doesn't. Well, so for them, I would take the 2 seconds to find Sarah Root's information. And so for my customers, I would do that. That way we're never emailing a spam account. That's what that account is to me. It's just a generic account things go into. And if you're not the government reaching in to try to get business, then the likelihood of it getting read is pretty slim. But if you send it to a person's personal email or at their company, they generally look at it, and a lot of people are really nice and get back to you, at least have a 10-minute conversation, right? Okay, so I'm going to pause. Here's, this is this connection contract. It's perfect, and it's expiring, so there's people there. That's how I found it. And I just want to pull it back. The way I found the connection was multiple ways. Well, I already closed the page, but one was on, well, here you go. So let me show you the site. So on GSA, just keep going back to GSA because GSA is trying to be the central repository at the very least of information. So it is a great place to start, just like Google as it relates to contract vehicles. But in here, I'm looking at their telecommunication network services page. There's a ton of information they have in here. But in it, over here on the left, I'm able to see the contract vehicles that they're paying attention to. There's many, many more contract vehicles, but that's how I got to connections, right? As I came into GSA and I was, I could just go to, let's try this from scratch just for you. I can come to GSA in general and type in telecommunications like that. And let's see if I get lucky. Here's a video. Well, here you go. The very first one is technology products and services, telecommunication. And then here's another one that's telecommunication and network services, right? So if I click on that one, it's the same page, right? It's just, they labeled it differently, but it's the same information. But that's how I get to connections, and I'm there. You'll see me do this multiple times. This isn't designed to be rocket science, right? It's a process, and how do you follow yourself through? And remember, all this video about at the moment is trying to find those people's information that you can reach out to. How to reach out to them is a different video. I've done a lot of stuff about that, about how do you do cold calls in to contract vehicle program managers, for example. How do you prepare for those calls? Voicemail scripts, email templates, so you have this process of reaching out. So look for my other content where I talk about that. Okay, so that's connection 2 for my telecommunication potential customer. That's one I would recommend they reach out to, these 19 vendors. These are great people to start with. The next one is networks. So networks is expiring for sure, but when I'm coming in here, and I closed it before, but when I come in here, I'm going to do the same thing, right? Here's the 4 folks who had it, and what I'm looking for is to see, and I didn't look at this yet, but to see if I can jump in, see if I can find the main points of contact. And it says their name a lot. I'm just waiting to see if anything jumps out. Here it talks about their services, etc. Oh, this is good. How much their spend was. So managed network services, that's probably a big part of where they're at or something. But no, I think they did manage lines as well. So there's a good spend in here. Let's just come back up. If I click on AT&T, where are you taking me? So you took me, I think you took me to the exact same spot I'm at. You did. So this is just taking me to the main sites for these guys. And the reason this is important is networks was the main contract for all telecommunication. I mean, this is a big wig, right? And so these 3 companies, I don't want to pretend like I'm a telecommunication expert, but by reading this material, I see that these 3 are the big players. So let me go out and try to reach out to them. So I'm going to pull up CenturyLink and Verizon. That's all I need from these guys. I don't need anything else at the moment from this page on networks on GSA. So I want to close it and get rid of it. I'm going to come over here though. I just opened up, oh, that's funny. Did I do the same one? So I had already opened up network, but let me come back to it. So here's networks, and here's the count team. Okay, so hold on one second. Okay, so that one, let me come back. So this one is meet your account team, and this is where I try to go in and find people's information. So that one didn't really have a program manager, specific title. So I'm looking here, there's an account representative. These are the people who can help you, but let me just see what their titles are. Army, and let's just call it Department of Army. Okay, let's see what these titles are. So these are first escalation. So these are the people doing telecom. I don't want to talk to them at all. Those are the people doing the job. So if I come back here, and I think I went a little bit too fast here. Here's the government program management. I went way too fast, but it's funny. This guy's like 15 miles away from me. But reaching out to these people, now I've got a name and a number to start with. Here's the program manager for their compliance office. I don't see anything else in there, but you're seeing how I'm digging into names. Let me show you something else I did with, who is this? This is Verizon. With Verizon, something else you can do though, and I did this already over here, is I'm on networks, the solution kind of thing. And these are the contract vehicles, but I just backed up a tab to here. And now I'm looking at Verizon contract vehicles. The reason this is important as it relates to my telecommunication customers, as I'm preparing to build them, let's say a call sheet of a couple hundred names that they can reach out to related to multiple contract vehicles, related to different things, is in here, I said, show me the contract vehicles you have. So now I can see that Verizon has connections, obviously, which I just said. Here they have the DISs. What's DISs? So it looks like this is another telecom one. I would have to talk with my potential customer and go, does that one sound like it fits for you? And this is what I do with my customers, right? It's their job to look at the contract vehicle and go, yeah, what they're buying on this contract vehicle is what we're looking for. And then we take it to the next level. Here's the EIS. When's this go? Under this 15-year. It's funny, it's 15-year, but it doesn't say how far. So I'm going to look at that in a minute. Here's FEMA's telecom one, natural disasters. That could be an interesting one. All pure telecom. It's exactly what they would want to be in. That's funny. I'm right here looking at this FEMA one, and I don't see any point of contact. Verizon Federal as the FEMA's agent to establish. Okay, so that one maybe you ignore for a little while. You know, for example, once you're into Verizon as a small business or as a business, then you can start working your way around. So that contract one with FEMA is no big deal. Let's get in the door a different way and then go figure that out. So here's GNS. So highly secure and reliable global networks by 2020. It's kind of done. So let's pop that one open really quick. Schedule program, quality networking services. So here's just their network contract. I don't know if that's the right one, actually. Yeah, that's good. And then I don't care about Buffalo. Here's the networks one. Wireless for government, keeping government's customers connected. Let's ignore wireless for a second. WITS 3, interagency telecommunication. It's the National Capital Region. And so I think that one just feels old, but let's take a look at it. So I just opened up, you know, all these different sites. So let's take a look really quick. Here's the EIS one. First thing I'm looking for is when's it expire. It's poised to replace the existing contract vehicles of networks and WITS. So it's the future, it looks like. And then here's a transition guide, blah, blah, blah. Here's just them saying why they're so great. Do you know where you stand? Modernization levels. Here's what they're trying to do, which is great for my customer to be paying attention to. End user group meetings. So this is just when they're meeting. That one's interesting. That one would be interesting to see. Like, I mean, this is separate from this video, but these user groups, I'd be curious, like if you can get into it, or add it to the distribution group, I would absolutely add myself there and say, hey, I'm an interested vendor. Can I be part of it? Okay, participation is voluntary. See, this one I don't see a lot. I mean, I would dig more into it at the moment, but I'm not really trying to track it. So let me just close it. Mostly I was trying to find quickly whether it's a future contract. It is, so it's going to go out for a while. So let's go after that. But I've tracked that. Here's global network services. Okay, so here we automatically got some account people. Client partners, not the right one. So these ones aren't the right one. That's who the government should talk to. And then, so it's used. Award date's the 15th. 5 1-year option period. So it's going to go another 5 years, it looks like. And here you go, contract manager, Mark. So this is somebody I'd go after. And it seems like, I thought I saw Mark's name over here. Nope, that wasn't it. You're seeing me kind of go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, right? Thomas, Jean, Mark. I did not, so I didn't see it. I thought I saw this person, Mark. Mark, I thought I saw his name somewhere else. I might have, but anyway, so that's the person I would start with, right? And it's like, okay, I need to reach out and talk to this person. So please report any trouble circuits, whatever. Here's escalation. It's not us. We stay away from the escalation stuff. This one's interesting, though, the program manager. So here's Tiffany and David Vaughn, which is different than, what's this guy? He's the contract manager. So those actually would be people I'd put on my radar as well. And then down below, I'm looking to see what else we got. So the count team, I don't know what I'm looking. So let's look. Here's a client partner. We definitely don't want them. Program management's Tiffany, David. I don't know Kelly and Alyssa and Ray's job. We definitely don't want global operations manager, but I would start with these two. They definitely are sitting there. Client services, project, and management. Those aren't. So the only ones out of these contexts I would go after is the program management people. Billing, contracts management. Contracts, let's see if there's any teaming. Nah, it's just Mark. Mark is still somebody worthwhile to reach out to if you can't get traction here, because maybe he can open the door. Maybe he can answer the question of, hey, who manages your subcontractor teaming? What's the process? That's part of my call prep, right? Is understanding what is Verizon's process for adding new people to this contract vehicle. But you see in about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever, we're able to quickly learn a lot about this contract vehicle and the people and determine that it's worth pursuing. Now you spend, another hour or something making sure you've got all the call prep done to reach out to this contract vehicle. Because again, if you can get on a contract vehicle like this, it represents millions. So there's no reason you shouldn't spend hours to knock the meeting out. So that one's good. Global network. Here's GSA schedule. We're still sticking on Verizon, by the way. So I'm just still showing you. I'm looking for telecom vehicles that would fit for my potential customer who's in telecom space. One of the ways I'm doing this research is by finding companies that are large primes doing the telecom work and then going in and seeing what other contract vehicles are on. At the moment, we're doing that with Verizon. So here's Verizon's advanced IT solutions for the government. And here you go, the period of performance is till 2022, which is good. This is coming out of MCI, blah, blah, blah stuff. So it's all the way through services. Here's the services that are on it. And so some of these are professional services. I don't see it call out telecom specifically. So that'd be something they just want to look into. I'm just going to scroll down. I always like this, by the way. If you don't know this, the price list for any of these large contracts are out there. So if you want to know whether your pricing fits with what's currently being billed to the government, just go take a look at these larges. If we come over here, I'm just looking on the right-hand side. I don't see anything right away that talks about who the points of contact are. So I'm not going to dig too far on this one. You know, this is an example of another one. I put it on a second tier. Once I'm in with Verizon, then I can try to get to every contract vehicle they have. That's the kicker, right? Whether it's a large prime or the federal government, you should be able to predict $20 or $50 million in revenue that could come to your way as your company matures, right? If you have $1 million in revenue, then don't expect to get 20 million out of Verizon in the first 2 years. But you should be able to look at Verizon as a $20 to $50 million long-term potential as you team up with Verizon, subcontract on their contracts, have them team up with you on stuff you might go after. That relationship could easily be worth 20 to 50 million for a small business that grows the right way, if they do the right things, right? By maintaining that relationship, because they're getting billions and you know they're putting hundreds of millions back into the small business community. The more you do to make yourself, put yourself at the top of the list, the more chance you can develop a lot of good revenue. Same thing on the agency side, same thing on the core competency. This company does telecom. Well, they should own telecom so they could support across the government. Anyways, I diverge. Okay, last one I want to look at. This was just the WITS 3. I'm just seeing when it ends. I think here's contract information. Let's go take a look at that. I must have missed something. Awarded in 2007, so this thing's done. I must have missed something completely. So this one's, it looks like it's completely done, which is fine. I just bypass it completely. And one other thing I want to grab from Verizon, they got the federal small business. In here, they're talking about, I'm assuming, how they work with small businesses. Small business partnerships are the key, small business facts. Here's our commitment. What we look for companies that have unique capabilities and experience in managed services, securities, and advanced communication. That's what my customer does. I think they do a little work with Verizon already, but they're in there. So here, they were recognized as, you know, one of the best large businesses, in this recognition section. The reason this is important is that the Treasury, whoever is the program manager at the Treasury and with Verizon supporting that activity over there, they clearly are pushing, holy smokes, driving 53% of the subcontracting opportunities to small businesses. That's pretty good. So, you know, this is a group worth pursuing. And then I'm just looking to see, so here they're talking about their contracts, which is exactly what we're talking about. On these, I would love to see what their small business plan is. If you don't know this, for these large contracts, companies like Verizon need to put together a small business plan, and they have a commitment to the federal government that a certain portion of this multi-billion-dollar contract will go to smalls. An example is 23% is the minimum because that's the federal standard. But some of these guys have 30, 40% goals, and that's a big deal. And they're not handing it out. They don't have to hand it out. I mean, we hear about, oh, you should, you know, they should be giving it to smalls. It doesn't matter. If the smalls can't do the work, then the primes have to maintain that, you know, they have to protect the integrity of that contract. But if you're a very reliable company, then they're going to sit there and count on you and be able to give you more of that. Here I'm just looking, resources. I'm looking for the, well, so that's no good. I'm looking for where do you sign in? Here's contracts, blah, blah, blah. So and there was one in there about due diligence, but these guys, if you don't know this, they have a small business liaison officer. So Verizon, I can't remember that person's name, but I've got it on a list. And you know, that's a great place to start out to see if they've got a place to register. So here, Let's Connect. So I hate this thing. This Let's Connect is just an email. That's too generic for me. I don't like doing that. You know, find out who the person is and actually reach out to them. Okay, so a lot of talking there about Verizon. I'm going to close that stuff for a second. I don't need to see them anymore. We already did the networks one at Verizon. Another Verizon, kind of hung out at Verizon. Here's CenturyLink. Link. It's the same thing. I would just pop over. So CenturyLink, you can go through that same thing, right? Here's the program office for CenturyLink, and I come in here and see, here's contract. Wait, sorry, I went too fast. Here's the program management folks, senior director, and sometimes I'm looking for just a team. Don't see them. General inquiries, technical support, and sales. These people I wouldn't necessarily contact. I mean, I might try Scott, for example, right? If you can help with sales, contact the salespeople. If not, kind of ignore it. But otherwise, they've got really good contacts just right up here at the top. These three people I would definitely contact. But let's see what what contracts CenturyLink has. And in here, so I got to tell you, I have no idea what this is at the moment. Oh, I'm seeing. Okay, so I'm still on some networks page, and that's not what I was looking for. What I'm looking for, and let's just go back to CenturyLinks for a second. Oh my gosh, even their links are no good. So if I go to CenturyLinks like this, I'm here. What I'm looking for is government contracts. So I'm just going to scroll down really quick and see if I see anything. Here's public sector, right? And that's good. Let's start there. If you see public sector, now I can come in here. Great. That's exactly what I was looking for. Public sector, federal contracts. So here's the contract vehicles that CenturyLink has. They were good enough to land network. So let's see what else they have. There's EIS. So here, they're on Alliant, GSA Networks. This is local people, GSA Connections, WITS 3, EIS. So one of the things that I'm seeing, and I could look at this other customer, AT&T, in a second, or vendor, but there's this common group of contracts that they're all on, right? I'm not even gonna, let's click on Connections for 1 second to see if CenturyLink makes it easy to find their people. By the way, here's the labor category, or labor rates, if you want to see what their labor is. But what I'm looking for is their people. That's GSA. Come on, guys. Did I miss it? Some of these vendors make it easy to find their stuff and others don't. So let's just see what we got. Hey, here's a subcontracting plan. I haven't seen one on this, so let's go ahead and see what it looks like really quick. So the Connections subcontracting plan was 10 years ago. So this one's all done, but so if you haven't looked at these before, they're fun to come through and see who are they doing subcontracting with. And you don't generally see a lot of this information out there. So this is awesome. Oh, come on, you're not telling us everything they're making? that would have been handy. So I'm looking for the goals here. So this is what I was talking about. The federal government has a 23% goal. And so their goal is higher at 30%, which is good for small businesses. And then the service disabled and HUBZone are both 3% and 5% for the other two. Those are natural for, those match with the federal goals. The one that's interesting that I think is really great is the veteran-owned small business goal of 3%. No one has a veteran-owned goal. So the fact that they're putting in a small business plan allows veteran, but not service disabled veteran companies to come in and play at this level. Okay, so coming down here, here's just what they're doing. I'm seeing it really quick to see if they've got anything else. Okay, so I'm gonna probably skip it in a second. Oh wait, program administrator, lead subcontracts representative. Oh, this is for Quest. Is this for Quest as well? So these are the points of contact for those people. Actually, I'm going to scroll down. Maybe we can find it in here. That's their subcontractor, but reporting coming down. That's GSA. Some of this is just formalities. I'm on page 21 out of 26. This subcontracting plan was manager procurements and subcontracts. So David Hinson, I don't know who he is, but he's somebody that I would. Oh, that's funny. So I'm sorry, and somebody else might know this better, but Quest, maybe Quest is actually the like part of CenturyLink, and I'm just not paying attention to that. I could do some research outside this to find that out. But if that's the case, then we just found points of contact in here and other stuff, and we chase it down. Anyways, that was really handy, but I still haven't found what I was looking for, which is who the points of contact are. Contract administration. I'm going to try this one last, and then we'll just get out of here and move on to some other stuff. So, excuse me. So, looks like, we got a program manager. No, they're just describing it. I want the people's names. Give me names. This one's a little harder for me to find. I'm not going to waste my time going into it at the moment with you, but I would dig further into this CenturyLink, but they just wouldn't be my first call unless the customer has it. And then let's try the last one, which is AT&T. So AT&T had a lot. Remember, I came to the networks page. We can ignore that because we know it's dying, but we can look at these other ones and see where they're at, right? And between AT&T, Verizon, and CenturyLink, we're able to see the primary contracts that are out there that are attractive to telecommunication firms, I would assume. Here they've got a lot of other contracts. I'm just going to click on that and see what we see. So I still get to see the ones that are on the left, but I get to see anything more that they have. Here's our IDIQs. Okay, so they've got a ton of contracts in here. This page is really great to be able to come back. NetSense was the other one I was looking at. Let's just take that one for a second. And then where's the, seeing if there's ITES. Where's their chess? Sorry, I'm scrolling a little bit fast here. I'm just looking for the Army one that I'm missing. So I don't see it. So I'll click on connections too. Okay. So these two, I'm just going to look in really quick and again, see if we can get some traction. There's rates, if you want to be able to see that. Here's the team member. So this one's really cool. There's my points of contact. I'll come back. But here it's showing me who's on the team, which is great. So some of these guys are actually large themselves. But so in order for them to win the connection contract, they teamed up with these 5 other firms. That doesn't mean they're the only firms that can be on there. It just means they were the primary players. Let's go back and look at the point of contacts here. So main points of contact, there you go. It's exactly what we're looking for. Unfortunately, this company, a couple of these people, oh, that's funny. I don't know. Maybe this is how they do some of their emails. So maybe you try it because it's Ken Williams and Sarah Roots, and SL might be like a maiden name or a married name. And then contract managers, Laura Grimes. So reaching out, there's the information. These people, again, are like 20 minutes from me, which is awesome. And that's what I mean, right? This video is about how easy it is to find these people's information. Then you prepare. Make sure you talk to these people only after you've prepared and that you actually are in a solid spot. I don't know how we got to NetSense. I was hoping, well, here's vendor point of contacts. Let's see if they give them all to us. Look at this. I mean, this is kind of some of the stuff I'm talking about. It took me, maybe this entire video is an hour, right? And if all I got was the NetSense contract. So this one, I can't remember when it expires. Let's go ahead and look at that really quick. Where is it? It's a performance period, 10 years, 15 to 25. So it expires in 2025. So in here are, what does that look like? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like 25 people's names, numbers, and emails to the large contracts that I can reach into and say, hey, we're trying to get on your team. We're this, blah. And for the company that does telecommunication, the whole reason I was doing this video and kind of my prep, they're very good at what they do. So they can come in with some strong stories right off the bat. Their capability statement can be very clean and direct that allows whoever we're going to talk to see that this is a small business that is playing at a large level. So they've got the skills and the subject matter expertise. But here, look at these names and numbers. This guy, Greg Jones, if I wanted to, I could dig out his information a little harder. But most of these people are primary emails and phone numbers. So that's awesome stuff. And it's just the start. And that was from AT&T, just so you remember this. That was AT&T led me to, clicking on the network or NetSense contract, which led me to the points of contact. Boom, boom, boom. So if you're trying to go after contracts that fit in what your space is, first figure out what they are, then begin to find the primes that are in there. Only go after the large primes if you've got a good amount of work, 2 to 5 million, 5 million plus kind of stuff that you can go in and make them realize that you guys are the experts at what you do. All right, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up. I did want to come back to the one I didn't even do. It was the first one that I'm gonna work with my customer on is this Army one, because this is big. And it's a new contract, which I like. It's a 10-year contract that's out there. And it's called ITES 3S. But this one has a lot of different IT services. And the company I was talking about has telecommunication as their core competency with additional IT services that they can support. So that means they could fit themselves into this contract. And this is a high ceiling contract. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's 10 billion plus. And I can look at it, but it's 10 billion plus kind of thing. And for this particular one, I definitely downloaded the capability statement, performance work statement, and I want my customer to look in. So when they talk to the potential prime, they can say, hey, we would really fit into this labor or this task area under these labor categories. They're knowledgeable about the PWS. You don't want to go have a conversation with AT&T, Verizon, or whoever, and not know which task areas you fall under and not knowing which labor categories you fall under. You need to kind of understand what questions they're going to ask you. That's part of the call planning. And again, for a shot at multi-million dollars in long-term revenue, a few hours of prep is not a bad thing. The reason I like this page, though, is it gives me what I'm looking for, right? Here's all the vendors that are in here. It's the actual contract information that they have. So if you want to go and look at the award, here's their labor categories for every one of them. Somewhere up here, I was looking at, there was another checklist that I have, and I can't remember where that was at, but I'm able to look in here and find all the right people. So this is a new contract, just started going out last year, a lot of room for growth. And if my company can come in, my customer's company can come in and say, hey, we're the best at what we do, then any one of these larges would love to at least have the conversation with them, because they still do need to hit those small business goals, whether it's small business as a whole, veteran, woman, 8A, or hub zone. They need to hit those goals, but first and foremost, they need to know that you're the best at what you do. My potential customer is that, and now they have a path forward to begin to reach out and talk to these people. In this particular case, I think this is like 65, I don't know where they put it, but the actual list of smalls to larges, I think there's 65 larges in here and like 95 smalls or something. That's a big deal. That's 65 potential customers that my customer can serve, because a prime is your customer, right? And that's 65 potential people you could reach out to related to this one contract, trying to get in the door and figure out, where you can get some traction. So, okay, so long video, just reminding you of the scenario of what I was trying to do in this Neil Raw video is partly it's myself, right? I was doing this research. So when I talk to this potential customer, I know where I can guide them in the first 90 days of activity, saying, hey, you should be doing this, 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 this. Obviously, they want their marketing material ready, but when it's ready, here's who you call, and here's the path I would follow to reach out to them. Here's names, numbers, et cetera. So that was the purpose of this video, for me to do the research. For you, I'm hoping you see how easy it is within an hour to find a whole bunch of names related to what you do. I don't care what you offer, products, services, et cetera. The federal government buys everything, right? And for most of us, 80, 90% of us, they buy a lot of what we sell. And so finding the contract vehicles at the right place is just a matter of doing some research. This is one of the many ways you can do the research. So I talk about this all the time. Government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. Part of the process is doing your homework and being ready before you have a call with a prime potential teaming partner or a government contractor. So hope this video is helpful for you. Give it a like, give it a comment below if there's any suggestions you have for what I could keep doing that's helpful to you, or what you'd like to see me do different. If you'd like me to focus on a particular area that you have, just let me know. Connect with me on LinkedIn and feel free to message me. I'm trying to put out as many of these videos as possible that help my current customers while also helping you who aren't my customers, but I want to help succeed. So go make it happen.